Hi, you guys, welcome back. I have this awesome story that I've been reading this week, and I'm super excited about it because I got to go see part of the Redwoods this past weekend. I went to Muir Woods, just north of San Francisco, and it was a pretty amazing sight. And we saw so many cool trees and it's just everything growing everywhere. And I had so many questions. So when I came back, I found this book here in my library that I answered all my questions. So once I'm finished reading the story, I will show you a few of my pictures because there is some awesome stuff that we've got to see. So here we go. Redwoods by Jason Chin. And I love how Jason wrote this story. Not only did he just give facts, but he made it just such a cool story. It starts out with this little boy in the New York subway who finds a book. And he picks it up and opens it and starts to read. And pretty soon he is transported into the book. The coast redwoods are among the oldest trees in the world. Their ancestors lived about 165 million years ago during the Jurassic period. So their ancestors, great grandparents, whoa. One tree can live for more than 2,000 years, which means there are trees alive today that first sprouted during the Roman Empire. Redwoods have shallow roots that travel more than 100 feet from the tree. They help the trees to stand, and they need all the help they can get because that's my favorite fact about redwoods is that the roots grow out along the ground and intertwine with each other to help hold each other up. They're basically like one giant living forest all together. They are the tallest living things on the planet. Redwoods regularly grow to be more than 200 feet tall. A redwood trunk can be 29 feet in diameter at its base. That is so wide that a tunnel could be cut in it, big enough for a car to drive through. Wow. Look up the Leggett tunnel tree. Amazingly, such a tall tree starts from a seed about the size of a tomato seed. A 1-inch long cone that houses the seed falls to the ground, and if the conditions are right, the tree will sprout. With enough light and water, a redwood sapling can grow fast, up to 2 feet per year. Now, if we grew 2 feet per year, we would be 6 feet tall by the time we're 3. Redwoods also grow from other redwoods. When a tree falls or is cut down, new trees can sprout from the big round masses along its trunk called burls. Often, several trees will grow from a burl on one stump. If you see a ring of redwoods in a forest, they probably all sprouted from the same stump. Okay, you guys, that answered one of my questions I will show you pictures of. So cool. One reason that redwoods are able to live for so long and grow to be so tall is that they are very good at defending themselves. Their wood contains a lot of tannin, a chemical that protects them from fungal infections and insect infestations. That's pretty cool. Redwoods are also well suited to live through fire. If there is a fire, their extremely thick bark shields them from the heat, just like the heat-resistant tiles on a space shuttle. Their branches don't start until very high up, 200 feet in some cases, which also helps protect them from fire, since most forest fires can't reach their needles. Even if a fire penetrates the redwood's bark, the tree could still live. In some cases, a huge portion of the center of the trunk has been burned out, but the tree keeps on growing. In many ways, fire actually helps Wow. By clearing out other plants that would otherwise compete for resources like water and soil. There were several trees that I saw just like that. Coast redwoods need a lot of water to grow as tall as they do. In the area of Northern California where they live is perfect. It's a rainforest. The air is cool and damp, and the land is often covered in thick fog. It takes a long time for water to travel all the way from the roots to the top of a redwood, and the fog helps the trees by preventing them from losing moisture to evaporation. In addition, the needles of a redwood can absorb moisture straight from the air. Wow, so all that fog is really a blessing. In the summer, when there is much less rainfall, redwoods have an ingenious way of collecting water. They make their own rain. When the fog rolls in, it condenses on the redwood needles, and whatever moisture isn't absorbed then falls to the ground to be soaked up by the tree's roots. And other plants that live at the base of the redwood trees use this artificial rain as well. So not only do the redwoods water themselves, they water all the plants around them. And the plants under them are gorgeous and beautiful and big. The branches of a redwood are called the crown or a canopy and start very high up in the trunk. To study redwood crowns, scientists had to climb into them, and this is not easy because the trees are so tall. Researchers use a bow and arrow to launch a rope over the branches. When the rope is secure, they can pull themselves up. It is a very dangerous work. When the needles fall off a redwood, they decay and turn to soil. And redwoods are so big that this soil often collects in the trees themselves. Soil that collects on the branches of a tree or in crevasses on its trunk provides a home for other plants. Plants that grow on redwoods are called epiphytes. The most common epiphytes found in redwoods are ferns. In one tree, researchers found a mass of ferns weighing more than 1,600 pounds. That's heavier than a full-grown polar bear. What? Ferns are not the only plants that make their homes in redwoods. Mosses, fungi, brush, and even trees grow in a redwood's canopy. Researchers have found a wide variety of trees high above the ground, including hemlock, spruce, firs, oaks, and California bays. In one redwood, researchers found a California bay growing out of a knothole over 300 feet from the ground. Wow. In addition to plant life, scientists have found many animals living in redwood canopies, including flying squirrels, beetles. I'm trying to get this, there we go, the glare off. Flying squirrels, beetles, earthworms, centipedes, spiders, salamanders, and yellow banana slugs. Some animals, like red tree voles, live their whole lives in the treetops and never see the ground. Many birds live in the tree tops of a redwood also, including bald eagles, ospreys, woodpeckers, the marbled mullet, and the northern spotted owl live almost exclusively in the oldest redwood trees and are both endangered species. When a redwood is injured, the tree will often sprout new trunks that look like miniature versions of the tree itself. If a branch is damaged, a new trunk will grow straight up from the top of the damaged branch. Sometimes more than one new trunk will sprout. Researchers found one tree with more than 200 reiterated trunks in it. There was a forest of redwoods growing atop a single tree. Look up the redwood chandelier tree if you want to see it. It's incredible. The crown of a redwood can be very complex. As the tree grows, its main branches and the branches of the new trunks crisscross and run into each other, forming a maze of growth. The crown can become so dense that from its interior you can't see the ground or the sky. Researchers have even gotten lost while exploring the crown. The largest of all redwoods are in the class of their own. They're called titans. For a long time, the record holder of the tallest tree in the world was stratosphere giant, measuring a whopping 737. Okay, there's my fun flipping those around. 370 feet. Yes, my brain flips numbers and letters around periodically. Fun times. But that record was broken in the summer of 2006 when researchers discovered Hyperion, a giant coastal redwood rising 379.1 feet from the ground. And it's still growing. So, wow, Hyperion could be 30 feet taller now that it's 15 years, right? If they grow 2 feet a year. That's 6 stories taller than the Statue of Liberty. It's taller than a 30-story skyscraper. It's so tall that if it were introduced to a city skyline, it would fit right in. Oh, look, he has to leave, and so he leaves the book on a new bench, and a little girl picks it up, and she's now transported into the redwoods. I hope you guys felt like you were transported into the redwoods and could imagine how amazing it is there. Redwoods in danger. The coast redwood used to be found all over North America. After the last ice age, that was a long time ago, the climate of North America changed and the habitat conducive to redwood forests shrank. Now they are found only in a small strip of coastland stretching from central California to southern Oregon. In the last 200 years, this forest has shrunk even more because of human activity. Redwood lumber is very valuable because of its height, tannin content, and resistance to harmful bugs such as termites. Since large-scale logging began around 1850, more than 95% of the original redwood forests have been destroyed. Only 18% of the remaining forests are protected. When the redwoods go, much of their environment goes too. Many plants depend on them for water in the summer, and many animals live nowhere else but in their canopy. Old-growth forests, those forests that have been around for thousands of years and are home to the tallest trees in the world, have ecosystems all especially fragile. Animals such as the red tree vole, spotted owl, and marbled mullet only live in old-growth forests. When a forest at this age disappears, it could be another 1,000 years before it comes back. Pretty cool. Pretty cool facts about the redwood trees by Jason Chin. Let's see what he says. He says, I was inspired to create Redwoods by writing of Richard Peterson. I first read his description of climbing in the redwood canopy in a magazine article, and then later in his wonderful book, The Wild Trees. After several months of working on this book, I was fortunate to be able to visit the redwood forest myself. What I found far exceeded my expectations, and I left with an affinity for the redwoods that I hadn't thought possible to have for a tree. Just as Mr. Peterson's writing sparked my curiosity and awe in the trees, I hope this book inspires you. If it does, I hope that you too can visit California and experience the wonder and majesty of the redwood forest. It really was pretty magical to be in the redwood forest. So here is one of the first trees we saw as we came into Muir Woods. It was several places we saw trees growing in a circle, and we were so confused, like, why would they do this? You can see how big it is. My sisters are walking just behind it. They were big, and now that I read this book, I know that trees all can sprout like that. It was so green, and everything was just so beautiful from all the rain. There's my sisters. There's the canopy of the trees way up high. You can see how beautiful these trees were. They have a really nice path walkway so you don't walk out into the redwood forest. You stay on the path. Here's an example of a circle of trees again, but they all had burned out fire holes. And we were like, wow, why are they like this? And you can see how tall they are from that picture. Another picture of it. Um, Probably one of my favorite thing was to see all the things that grew on the sides of these trees. Moss, fungus, mushrooms, um, everywhere we looked. And then they all had these wild burls here and there. Now we know that other trees could grow from a burl. This was probably my favorite though. This tree was big enough that you could stand inside of it. It's like the size of a room, and actually was two trees when you stepped back that grew up, and you can see all the knots and burls on these trees, and that is what other redwoods can grow out of if they need to. Pretty fascinating facts that I learned about the redwood forest.